Hello and welcome to part 2 of the Funk 101 guitar course. Now we're going to be moving on to some new techniques here. So we're going to take everything we've learned in part 1 and we're going to start applying some of these new ideas I'm going to introduce to you now. Now, funk guitar is very rhythmic. So funk rhythm guitar is probably how we're going to be referring to it. We don't get the big flash, shreddy guitar solos. Now I know a lot of guitar players, we fit into that stereotypical kind of ego where we all want to do the big solos running up and down the stage. But our role as a funk player, we've got to be much more disciplined. And we are very much a part of the rhythm section. So we have to lock in with the drums and the bass and any other percussion that is happening. Now, I know to some of you that might not sound that fun, but it's a real challenge when you got to stick in your rhythmic space and you've really got to lock in and get tight with the other players. Now, one of the things we can do as a technique to implement that rigid, rhythmic kind of style of playing is these kind of short, stabby notes. Now, this isn't a sound or a technique that's unique to funk. You can use it in several genres all over the place. So it's a very good thing to start getting used to doing. So what we need to do here, when we play our chords, it could be the dominant 9 we played earlier, or for example, let's take a nice major triad. So you wouldn't necessarily play a funk chord ringing out like that. So I know in our earlier examples and the exercises we've done, we did ring them out. That's because we were focusing on the strumming technique. Now we're going to shift the focus over to our other hand. Now, to create that funk sound, we need to be able to cut the note off after we've hit it. So if you notice, I'm not muting this hand to choke it. Because remember, we're going to be doing that constant 16th. Now, it's quite hard to try and mute in between that, and keep that going. You're going to find yourself doing some funny things. So what we need to do is get the other hand used to choking off the notes. Now, we do that by just releasing the pressure on our fingers down here. So let's take this A major triad I've been playing. So for those of you who are unsure of this shape, it comes from our A major bar chord. And all we're going to do is play the D, G, and B string. So fret 7. Fret 7, there we go, on the D string. Fret 6 there on the G, and fret 5 there on the B. Now this is a nice kind of funk chord because it means we're not hitting all the bass notes, so we get a nice clarity on that chord, and it means you can sit quite nicely in the mix. Now, to get that sound, what we need to look at is just lightly pressing our fingers down for the chord, and then releasing that pressure on our fretting hand. Now what we want to try and do is get it so each string is released at the same time. Because we don't want bits ringing out like that. We don't lift our fingers away from the strings, because then you get and you can, I'm being dramatic there, but you could, pull off the string. So we want to avoid that. So keep your fingers on the strings as you release that pressure. And that'll come in handy when we start moving into the next technique as well. But for the time being, let's just focus on that. So to get used to this, we can use some of our exercises from earlier. So for example, let's take exercise 1.1. where all we're doing is playing on beats 1 and beats 3, and we're going to play the whole 16th. Now, what I want you to focus on, still focusing on that strumming hand, but let's start looking at this left hand or your fretting hand now. So, if we get our 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and E and 3 E and E and. Okay, so now moving on, after you've spent a little bit of time practicing that fretting technique, we're going to start implementing some of our exercises from earlier, but now focusing on our fretting hand and releasing that pressure We still have to do everything we were previously doing, so counting the 16ths and that constant strumming pattern. But this time we're going to focus on kind of cutting those notes short and choking them off, just so we don't let the notes ring out. So back to basics with exercise 1.1, we're going to play on beats 1 and beats 3. But this time, instead of letting the chord ring out, we're going to choke it at the end of the beat. So again, I'm going to go with my major triad again for this one. So we're going to take 1 E and 2 E and 4 E and 1 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, so quite simple. The same exercise we were previously doing, but just with that left hand technique in there. So what I'm going to do now is going to go back to playing it with my drum track. So we can practice this with the beat, because that's what's going to be really important for us here. So again, 70 BPM. So let's just have a listen to that track and get locked in with that. So really focus on that fretting hand this time. 1 E and 2 E. Okay, so as you can hear, although that was the simplest exercise that we started off with, that already sounds a lot funkier than it did when we let it ring out with the. So just by releasing that pressure there, we get that really tight and crisp sound that we're looking for with that funk guitar. Now, again, play through this several times so you can get used to it, and just really try and focus on the releasing of the pressure. Now, something you might have noticed me doing there with that triad shape is I had my thumb wrapped over the top here. Now, I know a lot of guitarists will say, when we start learning guitar, keep the thumb behind the neck. So this might feel a bit strange to you, but the reason I'm doing that is so I can keep my thumb over the top and it's muting these two bottom strings here. That just basically means when I'm doing that consistent strumming, if I do hit them, they're choked like that. And if I leave it out, you can sometimes hit them and you can get those notes ringing out. So by doing that, we just keep it so the notes we're ringing out are the ones we're fretting. It just helps it keep it nice and tight again still, and it just means only the notes we really want to cut through, these ones here in the middle, are the ones ringing out. So give that a go. If it feels a bit uncomfortable for you, you could try it with a bar as well, but it just basically means we're taking into consideration that there's other strings nearby that we don't want ringing out. Okay, so moving on again now. So our exercise 1.2. Again, on beats 2 and 4, same sort of thing. So I'll play through this one quickly for you. So moving through, we've got our 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 4 E and okay, so nice and straightforward as we did in part 1. All right, so now with the track, so really focus now on beats 2 and beats 4. So 1 E and E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a. Okay, so I don't feel like I need to start on that one, for too long. I think you get the idea. So again, once more, now we're going to implement both of those rhythms together. So we're going to be using our first and our third beat now for our first bar, and on the second bar, beats 2 and 4. And remember, at the end of the second bar, we're coming straight back in. So this is where that choking and that muting really comes in handy, because even between the fourth beat and the first beat, you can add a little choke in there. That just adds a little bit of separation to the parts. So again, with our click track on, and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 3 and a 4 E and a. And a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Now I think you get the idea. Okay, so now moving on to our 1.3 exercise again. As we did last time, we're going to take what we've done in exercise 1 and exercise 2 and combine it over a 2-bar kind of rhythm and phrase. So what we need to look out for again with this one is the end of bar 2 going back into the either the third bar, as you want to call it, or the first beat of the next bar, because we've got to keep that continuous playing up. So on that 4 E and a 1, straight back in there. So because we're focusing now on our strumming hand kind of muting technique, what we can do here is we can release the pressure a little bit and reapply it, just to add that little kind of break in between the beats. So for example, if I go 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and so I was being a bit dramatic with it there, but hopefully you can kind of get the idea of what we're trying to achieve. So as we've done on every other time, I'm going to get my backing track going. So a nice 70 BPM. So again, bar 1 is going to be beats 1 and 3. And bar 2 is going to be beats 2 and 4. So here we go. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 4 E and a 1 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And a 2 and a 4 and a 1. All right, so then that's going to cover our exercise 1.1, 1.2 and 1.3, but with this new technique we're looking at with the muting. So it might take a little bit of getting used to for you guys just to kind of get that feeling natural, because a lot of the time releasing the strings, it's like you do have to kind of think about it and really focus on when you're going to do it, because you don't want to choke the note like too early. We don't want to, well, not yet anyway. So we just want to keep it nice and concise all the way through. And what that allows us to do is just, as I've said a few times already, just get that really nice, tight, funky guitar sound that is just going to help us sit in with the band and sit in with the rhythm section and leave lots of space for every other instrument, just to slot in nicely. Because that's what our role is now. We're in the rhythm section, we're not a lead guitar player. Okay, so expanding on that, like we did the first time round, we're now going to move into our second exercise. Now this is where we start to develop a bit more of the funky rhythm once more, but with the muting, you're really going to start to hear the difference now, and it's really going to start to come into its own. For our second exercise, we're going to be going 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, and 4 E. So we're playing on every beat, but only the first 2 hits. So again, we're going to slow this down, and this is where that muting is really going to start to kind of develop, and you're going to start to incorporate it across the whole bar, not just on a beat at a time. So now, what we need to do is get that count going. 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. So remember, we're only going to play on the first 2 hits. So demonstrate that for you. We've got 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So a nice simple kind of exercise there, but just get that choke. So this is where we're really going to start testing ourselves. So once more with the beat. 1 E and a 2 E and a 4 E and a 1 and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, so nice and straightforward, that one. And again, we're now going to move on to our exercise 2.2, where we're playing on the off beat. So as I said earlier, on the beat is when we hit on 1, as you would count 1, 2, like so, and the off beat is when we start on the and. So this is where we're going to start really kind of testing our count and can we stay in time while implementing the muting as well. So again, nice and slow for you. 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. So again, we're just playing the and the R of every beat on this one. So we're now on the off beat. So again with the track. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 1 E and a 4 E and. So there we are, incorporating the offbeat and our muting. So now, as you've probably guessed, we're going to combine both of those exercises along with our consistent strumming and our muting technique. So, bar 1, we're going to play the 1 and the E. Bar 2, we're going to play the and the R. So, slow down. 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E. All right, so again, just look out for that second bar as we come back in, because we've got to keep that consistent movement going. So let's try with that track. So once again, just getting locked in. So that one's going to test us as we keep moving along, because you've got to kind of remember where we are in the bar and at what point we're playing those 16ths. So again, if that's getting all a bit much, you've got a lot to think about there. Obviously, thinking about what our strumming hand's doing, we're thinking about what chords we're playing and strings we're trying to avoid, left hand muting. If that's a bit much, just slow it down or just come out of the backing track for a little bit, just so you can build up some of those foundations again. Now, the thing is with all of this, if it's brand new to you, it's going to, take a little bit of time for it to start becoming natural. Now, again, just regular practice will really help you there, because it's all about like muscle memory with this sort of stuff. Now, the releasing of the strings, that will take a bit of time just to get your fretting hand trained to doing that. Because for, a lot of guitar players out there, when we start learning, we're encouraged to fret quite hard, to keep those strings nice and, pressed down tight to the fretboard. But for what we're doing here, it just requires that little bit more of a, I don't want to say sophisticated, but just a slightly more advanced level of playing and understanding of what our instrument can do. So of course, there's hundreds of different ways we can approach playing guitar. So now, moving on to our third exercise again, we're going to be implementing everything we've done so far on beats 1, 2 and, 3 and 4 and. So again, we're just making sure we're getting to grips with these 16th note rhythms and we're getting comfortable playing them at different points and landing on the different subdivisions. So again, I'll play this slowly for you. So remember again, beats 1, beats 2 and, beats 3 and beats 4 and. So 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and. Okay, so you're probably hearing a bit of buzz there as I'm clipping those other strings as well. That's again a good example of why just trying to mute the ones you're not playing will come in handy. So you don't have to focus on playing exactly the strings you're fretting, you can give it a bit more chop. And because the role of a funk guitar player is more rhythmic, it's more percussive, getting a little bit of that is very useful. So again, we're not moving on to that just yet, I'll keep teasing it, but we'll get there eventually. So again, beats 1, 2 and, 3 and, sorry, just 3 and 4 and. So with our beat, so 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Ah, there we are. A nice choppy funky guitar sound. So hopefully, again, you can see as we move in steadily through these different exercises and we start incorporating the different techniques we've been talking about, that you can start to see how it develops. As you keep practicing this, you'll really start to see it yourself. So now, moving on to 3.2, we're playing beat 1 and the and, or the R and the A, depending on how you pronounce it, of every beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, E and A. So again, we've got to make sure we're anticipating that R coming in a semi-quaver sooner, or a 16th note sooner than the 1, just to give us that little bit of urgency and that little bit of push into the next bar. So nice and slow for you. 1 E and 2 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. So again, we've got that da. You can start to see once more why that muting is so important. So with the track, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a All right, so definitely starting to sound more like your typical funk guitar part. And again, just keep that consistent moving with that strumming hand down, because our upstroke before the next beat is where we land in that hit. And having that consistency there, so 1, E, and down, up, will just mean every single beat that comes along, your strumming hand will be moving in the same way. So it just makes it easier for you just to know where we are and when we're playing. So now, again, we're going to be going over to exercise 3.3, and we're following the pattern of 1 and, 2 E and 2 R, then 3 and 4 E and 4 R. So we're combining this kind of movement over the beats, where beats 1 and 3, we're playing on the downstrokes, and beats 2 and 4, we're going to be playing on the upstrokes. So this is really going to solidify for us that down, up, picking or strumming motion we really need to be focusing on here. So now again, slowly, with the consistent strumming and the muted left hand. So here we go. So 1 E and 2 E and 1. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1. All right, so this one is a bit tricky to count out loud because we are moving around a little bit. So with the beat, and this is why it's so important to have that constant, reference point with the metronome or the drum beat there for us, so we can really measure what it is we're playing and how tight it's sounding. So here we go. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2. All right, so now when we combine parts 1 and 2 together, we're really starting to nail that funky guitar sound, and we're really starting to hit, that typical, percussiveness and, the sort of thing we want to be capturing when we're playing funk guitar. We don't want the big long notes, we want nice short stabby ones that just sit there nicely and offer that percussive and rhythmic feel we're trying to capture. So I hope that's going well for you, and I'll see you all in part 3.